Good morning and welcome to Market Insights. I am Lavina Emma. Today we will discuss transforming Africa's trade landscape. Now, the major port concessions and the impact of this on the continent. Now, let's picture this scenario now. Imagine a continent where goods move seamlessly, boosting economic growth and connecting businesses to global markets. That vision is becoming a reality thanks to major port concessions, transforming Africa's trade landscape. But you've probably heard the word or the term port concession thrown around. But what does it really mean for you? Now, simply put, it's when a government hands over the management of a port to a private company for a specific period. It's like leasing your home maybe leasing your home for rental management, but with bigger ships and bigger businesses. Now, why is this such a big deal? For years, Africa's ports have been bottlenecks, causing delays, losses, higher costs for businesses. So imagine waiting weeks for your goods to leave or arrive. I mean, that can be frustrating, right? Now, these concessions are promising a radical overhaul. We're talking about massive investments in infrastructure, new technology, efficient operations. So this means faster turnaround times for ships, reduced costs for businesses, and ultimately lower prices for consumers. So let's picture this again. A congested port, but due to this congestion, is causing lengthy delays and loss of opportunities. Now, that was the reality of Africa's trade ports in the past. But now, the future, with strategic partnerships, investments are unlocking efficiency, reducing costs, and increasing competitiveness. From Nigeria's Lekki Deep Sea Port to Kenya's Mombasa Port, concession agreements are modernizing infrastructure, introducing cutting-edge technology, and streamlining operations. But what is the impact of this concession on Africa's trade landscape? And what does this mean for businesses and communities? So whether you're a business owner struggling with shipping costs, or a consumer wondering why prices are high, or simply someone interested in Africa's economic future, this is a discussion you cannot afford to miss. So stay tuned for more on the transformation of Africa's trade landscape through port concessions. Now, to discuss this with me on transforming Africa's port landscape and the trade landscape, I have two guests joining me virtually, and I have, for this discussion, I have Dr. Babatope Ogunniyi. He's a senior lecturer at the Department of Economics, University of Lagos, and he has joined us virtually. I also have Mr. Ebiwene Bozimo, a public policy expert and energy analyst, and he also joined us virtually for the discussion on transforming Africa's trade landscape. But before we get right into that, we continue our discussion on the global market crisis, and I have a guest also joining me for this discussion, and that is Toby Akpiton. He's a professional forex trader and a global finance market analyst. So he's also joining me virtually. So I'll first of all start with Toby Akpiton concerning the global market crisis. So Toby Akpiton, are you here with us now?
Yeah, good morning, I'm here.
Morning and welcome to Market Insights.
Thank you.
Okay, glad to have you on the program, and I'm quite sure you heard about the global market crisis and how stocks are, investors are panicking because of this downturn in the prices of stocks, and everybody is greatly worried, especially investors and especially people who have put in their savings in these shares just to have some form of investment. Now, with this is currently creating a panic among the major global markets in New York, in Asia, and also in Europe. Now, as a forex expert and also a financial analyst, now, what are your thoughts on this global downturn in the market?
Okay. Despite the fact that the network is a bit shaky because of the current protest in Kaduna State, but when it comes to investing in the global financial market, it comes with a lot of knowledge, and the reason why many people are panicking is because they are not actually knowledgeable about the global financial market. And basically, if you have an understanding of the global financial market, you will know that the market actually moves in waves. For example, let me give you an example with the US dollar and the Japanese yen. The dollar has been buying against Japanese yen for the past 4 years. So what you're actually seeing presently is not actually a crash, but a pullback. So at times the market needs to pull back so that it can gain stability before it buys again. So the reason why people are panicking is because they do not actually have the knowledge about the forex market or the global financial market. So
Okay. Okay, yes.
when it
That being
comes
said,
to
now, okay, what
investing in the
strategies
forex
would
market,
you
there's a
consider to help
can you hear
investors
me?
mitigate their losses at this time? Okay, can you hear
Wow,
me,
okay,
Toby?
that's serious.
Okay, I
Yeah, I
said,
can hear you.
what strategies would you advise investors to help mitigate losses at this time?
Um, when it comes to investing in the forex market, you have to be able to calculate your risks. And for those who have invested and put a lot of money in it, I advise them to cut their losses short and wait for the market to pull back to a major support or a resistance level before they buy again or invest in the market. But for now, it's advisable you pull out from the market and wait for the market to pull back to support or resistance, and you can buy again. For example, the US dollar to the Japanese yen rose to as much as 161, 162 to the yen, but now it's currently at 145 or 144. And from all indication, it's still going to buy again. And I think it's getting to the point where you should think about investing again or buying again. So for those who have made losses, I advise you just come out to the market and wait for the market to pull back a bit before entering again. But to a large extent, the dollar is king and to continue to buy against other currencies. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, and yeah, we also know about the current Bank of Japanese yen and the crisis it's facing. And historically, since 1987, the Japanese trade index, the Nikkei, has gone down to as low as over 12%, and it's gotten investors in Asia, in the Asian markets, really worried. Now, as a financial analyst, now what are the market predictions for the future of these currencies, particularly with the Japanese trade index, the Nikkei?
Hello?
Yes, can you hear me?
Hello? Okay, so this cracking.
Yeah,
Please go again.
I can hear you
Can you
clearly.
hear me?
Okay, I spoke about
Okay, please go
the
again.
Japanese trade index, that there's a 12% decline in the Nikkei, and this has been the worst since the 1980s now. So I said, what are your predictions as a financial analyst for the future, particularly with this Japanese trade index?
The network is really cracking.
Bit of a
Hello?
network hitch there. Okay, thank you so much for joining me this morning, Toby Ampito. It's been great having this discussion with you. Due to this network hitch, I think once it's resolved, we can continue this discussion. Okay, let me move on to my guests who are also waiting virtually. That is Mr. Ebiwene Bozimo and Dr. Ogunniyi also. Are you here with us now?
Yes, I can hear you, so the connection is interesting.
Okay, I'm glad to hear you very well, very clearly now. Okay, so we're talking about transforming Africa's trade landscape with port concessions. And recently, the GCC countries, that's in the United Arab Emirates, have been forming partnerships with African countries in terms of managing their ports for either 10 years, 20 years, or 30 years. So first of all, let me start with Mr. Ebiwene Bozimo. Now, what is the impact of this port concession on Africa's trade landscape?
Africa has a very slim share in terms of world trade. And if there's something that can be gained from these partnerships, maybe it's going to be access to best practices, increase markets share. And at the end of the day, we have a lot of port infrastructure that's not being optimally utilized. If we get into partnerships and improve our infrastructure and processes, we can have more seamless transfer of goods between nations and ours, and even through ours, because the ports themselves can be a very valuable asset, such as what you see in someone like Singapore, which is a country that fundamentally survives on the efficiency of its ports. The advantage could be that goods can come to consumers much cheaper, and also export activities from Nigeria can be more seamless and appealing to those who would get our goods from the country.
Okay. Well, I also have Dr. Ogunniyi. He's a senior lecturer in the economics department at the University of Lagos. He also joined us online. Can you hear me, Dr. Ogunniyi?
Certainly. Good morning to you.
Good morning and welcome to the program Market Insights. It's great to have you on the program as we discuss transforming Africa's trade landscape and what the impact of port concessions will have on the continent. Now, how will this port concessions impact businesses and consumers alike?
Yeah. I would like to really say that even though the voice is cracking, but I was able to draw the line, the impact of global world market C2C. I want to say that we are now in a global village. And I want to also add by saying that today, in the area of movement of goods from one part of the world to another, shipping vis-a-vis through ports of various nations, have been the major means of moving goods from one end to another. And as such, this exchange needs some operational attitude that will make it seamless, clearing, exporting, importing, and a host of others, things like that. So shipping has become the most effective mode of transportation in the international exchange of goods, and it's established part. And shipping cannot happen without good ports. And these ports are in a position where on daily basis, like it's been done in other worlds, in other advanced countries, that sincerely movement of goods can only happen when the ports, ideas, initiatives are in agreement, are in tandem with what is called the best practice in the whole world. And as such, it's going to make room for easy movement of goods. It's going to make for efficiency. It's going to make room for partnership. It's going to make room for profitability. And it's going to enhance economic growth. And that's just it. Thank you.
Ogunniyi, yes, I've heard you clearly. Now, let's still on Dr. Ogunniyi now. How do these port concessions align with the broader economic development goals of African nations?
Yes. You will see, in fact, relating to the happenings around us, you will see that to revitalize the strength of labor development, to revitalize the attitude of growth, a lot of levels will have to be, you know, considered. And in the real sense of it, when we are saying growth or development, for a nation to grow, the world we know today is a global village. And as such, to do business with other worlds, as long as in terms of what we produce and where we have comparative advantage, and in doing this, we will need to move our goods from our own end to the other world. And that is one of the things that the Asia countries are doing. Like what they are having today, we will see the world, hovering around the Asians where they develop their ports and other things. So port concession is now becoming the in thing because government cannot do it all alone. And a private partnership is now the rethinking to bring about positive changes into the way we operate our ports. And considering the volumes of goods that are moving across, nations, unlike the past, and to really help in the growth of the economy, the port is essentially the major area where development is ever growing. And as such, for a nation to grow, port concession cannot be handled because there will be some, factors arising from. Let's look at what is happening in government enterprises. We used to talk about corporations in the past. Due to all these port authorities, and the realization is that the presence of government had been identified to be a major issue when government decides to take over the job of individuals or private. So private partnership had actually accentuated the growth in this area, which is helping the nation, which is helping, the movement of goods and other things. It's so beneficial that the partnership in terms of financing, in terms of growth, in terms of expansion, and so on and so forth. These are the areas of interest that ever transforming the African trade landscape. And it's a continuous process, like what we have in other world, in Spain, and they are moving. And it's just like in accounting time, we say it's a going concern. So a country like Nigeria is meant to benefit. Look at what we have in our ports today. And the practice today is even faster than what it used to be some 10, 20 years ago. Because government had started releasing some areas to individuals who will be able to handle all these areas better than putting it under any ministry. And that is what we are having. And a great number of, or let me say the percentage of what government is getting from ports in Nigeria is enormous. And the custom section up to date now, I mean, half-year report says that they have even gone beyond the estimated position, which is a good thing, is commendable, and at that, and it's ever growing. So that's what we have.
Okay, thank you for that, Dr. Ogunniyi. Okay, let me move to Mr. Ebiwene Bozimo. Can you hear me, Mr. Ebiwene Bozimo?
Yes, indeed I can. Thank you.
Okay, so yes, according to the Economics Intelligence Unit, in October of 2023, Abu Dhabi, DP World, and the Tanzanian government signed a deal for the manager of the Emirati logistics company to manage about 2/3 of Dar es Salaam port for the next 30 years. Now, do you think this, the influence of the Gulf country states in Africa's port concessions will position them as key players in the continent's, that's our African continent's economic development?
Now, I missed a bit of the question, but I gathered whether you're asking whether I think that that's a good deal ultimately. You see, UAE has invested in ports as one of their economic advantages. They've actually made the water around them a major part of their economic activity. And garnered a lot of expertise, which they're now exporting in form of a management concern. And they have made an agreement now with Tanzania. Tanzania has the ports. They have a decent location on the continent of Asia. And so if there's an to Tanzania, and no matter how much exports of expertise you're doing, you will enhance the employment, in that country, because you will not bring Emiratis. God knows there are not enough Emiratis for their own country. So they'll come and put more people in Tanzania to work in decent, at least hopefully decent jobs with dignity, and they'll now put those ports to good use. That is the point of the concession concept. You see, node on an entire logistics chain. You have goods, you have production, you have transportation, you have ports from where they come to or away from a country, and then you distribute further. If, with proper thinking, you can ensure that your ports are well positioned in the node for that transportation of goods, you should have things like train services or rails that come to or near those ports where it becomes easier to distribute goods. I think there's a win-win. The UAE and Tanzania. I would have loved it if Tanzania were the one who was, going forward to send out some expertise. But for now, for the next 30 years, according to the agreement, the UAE Emirati Management Company will be in charge. The most important thing is to have a legal framework that advantages the Tanzanian people and government and enhances their revenues. At the end of the day, you may say it doesn't matter who manages the ports as long as the benefits come to the people. Ultimately, too, the Tanzanians must be determined to ensure that there is knowledge and technology transfer. They should not sit down and be looking at the management company in the ports as if it's a Netflix movie. They should be determined that over those 30 years, in the first 10, they should know more. In the first 20, they should take some ownership. And by the end of the 30, they should be equally expert, if not better, and in a position by themselves to export Tanzanian expertise to other countries. So, no. And a concession that just makes destructive. When you have a concession, ensure that you are learning and mastering the matters so that as the concession proceeds, your people are put in a better position to manage it ultimately.
Thank you for that, Mr. Ebiwene Bozimo. Okay, but I still want to ask you this, like you mentioned, all the benefits of this concession is going to bring about a lot of jobs and managing it effectively to ensure that the port system works very well. Now, let's talk about, because with every business or every agreements between partners, there are always risks and challenges. So what are the potential risks and challenges associated with port concessions?
Would you, sorry, they broke up. What was the question? What could be the challenges of concessions?
Yes, the challenges and the risks of a port concession.
Okay. Though not necessarily realized, of some of the people in the country feeling that ownership or sovereignty is being donated to another person or another group. And the question will always arise in a country that might be, that has the expertise to do it. But like my colleague said, there are comparative advantages. Some people have more advantages or more expertise in something, so there's nothing wrong with it. As long as you establish the best.
Hear me, Mr. Ebiwene.
And social framework. Okay. I'm sorry? Take that.
There's no voice here. There's no voice here.
I didn't hear you. I'm hearing you. Hello? Am I audible?
You're very clear and audible, yes.
Forgive me, the networks are really interesting. As I was saying, the biggest challenge could be from a socio-economic place where people in the country are saying, are you saying that in our entire country, there is absolutely nobody or no group that can manage it? That's one thing. But the advantages can overcome that. The second thing is that some people may think you are donating your sovereignty to another organization or country. Why is it that it's not a person from the locale that is managing our ports? Then you have, in a more remote area, issues of security. You don't know whether some malign elements in the managerial company are seeking inroads into your system. I think that's very remote, because normally, as long as the legal, social and economic framework are properly crafted for the benefit of both nations, there should be few or no disadvantages, because ultimately you want to enhance government revenues, you want to enhance technical skills, and you want to enhance the efficiency of the ports themselves. So generally, when well crafted, you can only see mostly upsides. Country don't carefully scrutinize the legal framework. They could sign a document that permanently disadvantages their country. So it's really important for that framework to be well crafted in line with best practices internationally.
Thank you for that, Mr. Ebiwene. Okay, let me move to Dr. Ogunniyi. Yes, Dr. Ogunniyi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Yes, it's still on this trade agreement with African countries and GCC. That's the Gulf countries now. Now, how can African governments ensure that they receive a fair return on their port assets through these concessions?
Thank you. There are many ways by which the host country can directly or indirectly benefit. Most times, whenever there are concessions, it is important and quite imperative for the nation not to give in a total, release of port, to those interested, and a country that is forward-looking will want to partner with other investors. So I would take Nigeria as a case study in this scenario, and thereby talking about what Nigeria can do to be, to benefit. You can see, like the other speaker said, across African continents today, UAE is United Arab Emirates, is a nation that is expanding its kind of business attitude, business operation to where they know that their investment will grow. They are not out for any serious competition with the advanced countries. But look at Africa. African countries, they are in need of their new partnership. And that is what UAE is offering. And nations who have to partner genuinely in this area of context, and thereby benefiting directly and indirectly. Mentioning issue related to labor development, mentioning issue related to growth, mentioning issue to, expansion, mention issue relating to training, and many other areas like that. They are the new thinking in the area of port development, and exchange programs are also be seen as part of this new wave. However, we can also adduce to the fact that some of the operational system here will require additional knowledge, which means it's saying that you don't have it all. And by positioning a country where the country stands a better chance of picking the area that would have more direct benefit to our economy. And in doing this is a partnership all through, either in training, in knowledge, in exchange, and split operation like bringing production processes to the doorstep of the host country. And by so doing, the other port activities will follow seamlessly. And these are the things that a country can do and to enhance greater benefits and achievements in the area of port concession.
Let's look at some success stories. Now, how have these concessions transformed specific ports? For example, the Lekki Deep Sea Port and the Mombasa Port. How have these concessions transformed them, and how has it been able to impact businesses and the communities? So let me start with Mr. Ebiwene Bozimo.
Well, many of these, the Lekki Port, for instance, was done in 2022. So I would say the effect and impact of the concession is very much a work in progress. Maybe we need a bit more time to assess that. I've heard more about the Mombasa port, but even that, I've heard mixed stories about it. I think the risks is to try and ensure that when you're creating the framework for that concession, you don't leave it with such a long period before the opportunity arises to reassess the arrangement. So you won't say in 1990 that you're going to sign for 30 years and you're going to review it at the end of the 30 years or even at the end of 10 years. I think you should at least give every 5 years, you make sure you can review the agreement and also connect the income to the company to the work done by the people so that there's a direct connection, not that you have a fixed fee or a fixed concession ways of managing the risks. Port concessions have inherently good things because correlation. And while I may not have details about the Mombasa port, I would say one of the gaps we have is that we had a rule or a policy in Nigeria many years ago under the Obasanjo government where various
Mr. Ebiwene, can you hear me now?
I'm hearing you. It is
because
challenging.
The network is a bit, it's not very stable. It seems to be fluctuating at your own end. Okay. Okay, I'll come back to you in a bit. Let me move to Dr. Ogunniyi. Okay, so Dr. Ogunniyi, yes, like Mr. Ebiwene was saying, we should actually review these concessions perhaps every 3 years or every 3 to 5 years to ensure that things are moving smoothly. So that being said now, can we compare the performance of these ports when it was being managed by government entities compared to when we have, like for example, the Gulf Cooperation Council when they're managing these African ports? So your thoughts on this, Dr. Ogunniyi?
Yeah. If we are to compare the activities today with what it used to be, the difference is clear. Certainly, the difference is very, very clear. And not only profoundly clear, let me use that word. Why am I saying this is that in the past, you talk of losses, you talk of all sort of, you know, unethical attitude there. But today, when you talk of the private partnership in a port concession, we have seen them coming up with new strategy, with new attitude, and some of the obsolete equipment, have been done away with. There is compliance with the new technology. There's a compliance with the way business will have to be run. And essentially, in our port, is it Apapa? Is it Thika? Is it TL? Is it only in Port Harcourt? You see that new equipment are being used because there's no more delay. The presence of these new investors, they have actually changed the overall attitude in our ports. And you are sure of getting your goods as at when due. So that is a perfect position that had actually is a transformation process. Transformation process that have given birth to new attitude. So what we are saying in essence is that the way business is being done in our ports now has changed totally compared to what it used to be when government officials, and you expect some lags whenever government agencies are at work. And it's happening in our various ministries today. But you will see, even with the introduction of technology, you still expect some lags. But considerably in our ports today, those lags have been so managed, considerably, where there could be a delay, breakdown, and they have put some things in place to ensure better efficiency and operational attitude, and it's helping. So the difference, like I said earlier, is so profound today that look, we are better with the presence of this concession attitude, and it's the same thing all over the world. Government cannot run some of these affairs on her own. Otherwise, it will go. In fact, it will go moribund in no time. Not only that, talking about the assessment procedure that was earlier mentioned, whenever there are concessions, it is expected that regular reviews will have to be put in place, because is there a need for expansion? Is there a need to introduction of other things? Is there any need for making additional partnership and some letting some areas that are still incongruent with the operation? These are the things that are needed from time to time. So if there is a concession for a period of 20 years, it is expected that there must be regular evaluation of this agreement, at least or at most 2 years. And 2 years is a short period of time where if there is any need for immediate action, the government can seriously take it. And it will even help the government to be able to, get their return better than just leaving them to their own world. Otherwise, if some concessions were made and were not followed up, then it might lead to another thing entirely. Maybe the concessionary would have abandoned the procedure in a way for reason best known, and that may be, create additional problems. So, consistent review is a necessary position in the area of
Dr.
port concession.
Ogunniyi. Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Ogunniyi. Okay, before we round up the program, let me move to Mr. Ebiwene Bozimo now. Now we've talked about the benefits of these concessions, how it will benefit our African ports, how it will also create jobs, and there'll be more seamless transactions with importing and exporting. It's not just going to be the usual congested ports and people wondering whether their goods have arrived or when their goods are leaving. Now, how will this, the future plans for investments, now what future plans will be slated for this African ports investments with partnerships coming from the Gulf Cooperation Council?
I would think that one of the most important investments would be in technology. The very idea that you should be able to track a shipment from origin to point of delivery is essential in the entire logistics framework. Remember, the ports are just one node in the entire process. And so I would imagine that, among other things, from personal experience, what Dr. Ogunniyi said, the objects are amazing. As a matter of fact, once you enter that port, you could be anywhere in the world. It is that sophisticated. And so the equipment upgrades are essential. The technology if you invest in those three things, you can ensure that your ports will be world-class, competitive with ports anywhere else in the entire world.
Thank you very much for this, Mr. Ebiwene Bozimo. I also want to thank my guest, Dr. Ogunniyi, for joining us this morning on Market Insights. Thank you for sharing your insights and your knowledge into this discussion. Thank you very much, Mr. Ebiwene Bozimo, for sharing your insights into this discussion also. And I look forward to having you gentlemen again on Market Insights.
Thank you. The pleasure and privilege are both mine.
I appreciate you.
Okay, now let's look at the parallel market and the Central Bank of Nigeria rates concerning how the dollar is selling, the pound sterling is selling, and how the euro is selling for today. So we're looking at how much the dollar is selling against the naira. So for today, Thursday, 8th August, at the CBN rates, the dollar is currently selling at 1,511 naira to $1, and at the parallel market rate is selling for 1,591 naira to $1. So those are the parallel market rates are as usual higher than the CBN rates. And for the pound sterling, the CBN rate is 1,969 naira to £1 sterling. The parallel market rate is 2,021 naira to £1 sterling. For the euro, the CBN rate is 1,699 naira to €1, and the parallel market rate is 1,740 naira to €1. So those are our money market figures this morning, and the parallel market figures are, as usual, higher than the Central Bank of Nigeria rates. So those are the money market figures. Thank you so much for watching the program Market Insights as we discussed how to transform Africa's trade landscape and major port concessions, their impact on the continent, and this partnership with the Gulf Cooperation Council, how it will impact on trade and business in Africa. So many thanks to my guests for joining me this morning, and thank you so much for watching the program also. Do share your comments and your likes on our social media platforms. I am your host, Lavina Emma. Do stay tuned to the news update on SOUQ News Television.